Hello and welcome to our conversation today with Deb Thompson. Deb Thompson is an integral master coach and a psychotherapist. She has been on faculty with ICC for years as the head phone coach, was actually my phone coach during my training and kicked my ass and rocked my world and transformed me. I credit you, Deb. And Deb is also in primarily private practice, doing a lot of one-on-one work with clients in a whole variety of topics, but there's some pretty specific and juicy ones that we're going to dive into today. You have to stick around to find out what those are. Hi, Deb. Welcome.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for being here. I just love getting to spend time with you, and this is a fun new context to be with you in. So thanks.
You're welcome.
So here's where I'd love to start as a way in to get people to have a bit of a feel for you. You know, I know you work with a variety of people in a variety of ways, but I also know that you've got a few favorite places or places that are most interesting to you, that in some ways we could say, or in lots of ways, that you're actually really trying to revolutionize some ways that people relate to themselves, to self-care, to their bodies. So can you tell us what are some of the topics that you like to work in the most with people?
I work a lot with people who are trying to have a better alignment with their work. What is their right work? What is their right amount of work? How is that going to integrate with family, friends, wellness, community stuff? Within that, I'm starting to work with a psychiatrist on how physicians can have better work-life integration and balance and self-care. So that's new and exciting. A topic that has been a favorite of mine for probably 10 or more years is that around weight and wellness and body image and relationship with our bodies, food. Nourishment.
Yeah, and that's a pretty juicy topic. So for those watching who also want to explore the topic of resilience in the body and well-being, Deb's also on a panel with a couple of other awesome folks, Linda Pedley and Barry Davison. So be sure to check that out as well. And we're going to be fleshing out that topic more on that call. But I'd love to speak about it more here as well. And you know, I think that there's an important piece to, when you talk about this being of interest to you and has been for a long time, you also have a very personal relationship with self-care, weight loss, nourishment. Do you mind telling us a bit about your own personal journey?
No, it's a big part of my my curiosity and learning and ongoing journey in this thing is I was overweight into obese actually from probably about age 20 to 39.
Wow.
And then over a couple of years lost about 85 pounds. That's over 10 years ago now. So it's something I struggled with for a long time and was able to find the right way for me to be in that and stay well, stay vibrant, fit, happy, healthy, in a body size that's hopefully not going to have me having a heart attack like my grandfather did in his 50s and a fatal heart attack. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm struck by, as you share it, you know, and saying, well, I struggled for a long time, and particularly 20 to 39, we're talking about up till then, your entire adult life.
Yeah.
So, you know, for any of us moving through that time period, that's a real time where habits become entrenched, your lifestyle is developed, and we can see from media and the industry at large, there are a lot of messages and apparent solutions for how to approach this. And I know you, and I know your depth and your capacity and your wisdom and your perspectives. And they, in my personal experience, are certainly not in that kind of partial diet industry kind of perspective. So what I'd love to know is, what do you see in this either industry as a whole or people approaching this topic? What are some of the key challenges in how people tend to approach it?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's key, because if why you're doing something is not robust, is not valid, is errats or harmful, you will not succeed. And I think in our world in general, and in that industry in particular, there's this shame-based motivation. There's this idea that if you are thin, you will be beautiful, and if you are beautiful, you will be worthy. You will have value. And you can redeem yourself by changing your body to be smaller. And
it's amazing that as a value accomplishment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing and incredibly horrifically painful perspective.
Yeah, and I think what it leads to is desperate efforts that are unsustainable, because they're so intense, they're so inhumane, they're not juicy, they're not yummy, they're not fun, they're not personalized. I think it leads to people collapsing, saying screw it, and checking out. I think it leads to rebellion, and some of that rebellion that says that those judgments and shame-based attitudes are bullshit. Like, yeah, they are. They are. I was just as good a person 85 pounds ago as I am now, and just a flawed person as well. Like, it's not about worth. So I feel like we need to make a shift around our inherent worth, and our bodies are worthy of care, and we feel through our bodies, we express through our bodies, we experience through our bodies. So we want vitality, we want wellness, we want to be able to be attuned and work with ourselves. And it's a whole different approach, which I think is fundamental to actual stepping out of suffering, stepping out of that string around the axle that just tightens and tightens, and is very painful.
Mm-hmm. So if I can play devil's advocate for a moment, or like the kind of interior critic of the voice of, I will be worthy once my body is aligned with whatever this objective idea is. Because I have heard clients, friends, women, at times myself, like so entrenched in this belief that there is something wrong with me if I can't achieve this. Mm-hmm. And even seeing habits and behaviors that are unhealthy. You know, from the objective, well, it isn't healthy to be in a morbidly obese form. That isn't healthy. That isn't self-loving.
Right.
And then the judgments come. Mm-hmm. Kind of, it feels almost like this tension of, so while I'm continuing with these self-destructive behaviors, that becomes more evidence that tells me, so it's not just about the objective fat on my form.
Right.
I'm engaged in these behaviors. And so somehow that makes me less worthy. Mm-hmm. And the like mind F of, how am I supposed to love my body mm-hmm. before it's changed? So I'm not saying this isn't possible, and I get that you're talking about a whole paradigm shift. What do you say to, or how do you work with, to be able to start to shift those deeply entrenched perspectives?
Right. Well, seeing that they don't help, is one thing. I don't think.
Wait, hold on. Before you go on, I just kind of want to nail that one right down, like, and not just skate over it. Like, oh yeah, they don't help. So to actually get to see in your experience, when has shaming yourself, mm-hmm. berating yourself,
right,
ever actually made the difference, aside from kicking you into gear for a little while.
Mhm.
Thank you. So I just want to nail that point so we
Yeah.
can experientially feel that that's a bunch of crap that doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
I also think, I remember working with somebody who had really large breasts, and she hated her large breasts, and they got in the way, and they were sort of unwieldy. And it's like, fine, that is unwieldy to be in a larger body that you can't bend as easily, and that's a fact. But words like disgusting and gross, that just diminishes oneself. Would you say to a friend in the change room trying something on, would you say, well, maybe you could try something a little more flowy, or a little more, this would be more flattering? You wouldn't say, oh my God, like, where's my barf bag? Because you are gross.
Oh.
But we say that to ourselves. And then if you are prone to comfort eating, guess what? You're going to comfort eat, or clamp down into a strict diet where you feel so deprived in terms of hunger and flavor and fun, socializing with food, that you can't help but break out of jail and then overeat because you're out of jail and you're going back to jail. I call that being on the lam. It's like, and then that loop, like you said, that loop of the behaviors becomes shameful. But if we understand that these type of loops have been studied and exist as phenomenon, it's not a personal failing. So how can we not be in jail?
Mm-hmm.
Then we don't have to be busting loose and overeating. How can we say, yeah, I don't like it when I bend over in yoga and my belly's in the way and I don't feel as agile and I'm out of breath when I go hiking. I don't enjoy those things, but it doesn't make me a bad person, or language that we would never say to someone else that's pejorative or hateful.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate what you're naming from an experiential perspective, like how I'm moving in my body, how I feel in my body, which can be objective and aesthetic, but that's not what you're speaking to. You're speaking to, like, how does it feel? Oh, I'd like to be able to climb this mountain without this experience, which one thing is the experience itself. And then there's the judgment and conclusion about our self-worth that gets laid over top of it. Mm-hmm. So what I hear you saying is that's what you start to unpack so that you can actually get down to what's the why of shifting that's actually being in friendship with your body rather than an objective judgment of the body.
Right, exactly. Yes. And how to be patient and learn from, try things, have courage and curiosity to try things. And if and when they don't work, to not collapse again in shame or self-denigration, but as a learner, as a mentality of a learner and a work in progress, to tweak.
Right.
And I don't think one size fits all in this or any topic. I think there are things we know from research, and we can use that knowledge base, that sort of in integral language, lower right findings to inform us. But it's a very individualized and customized approach that I think is needed. And that's what integral coaching, one of the things I really love about integral coaching is the very personalized way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the naming of the learning piece, and this really ties into, well, what are qualities of resilience when we're working with our bodies and in an ongoing way, and that being a learner and tweaking has a radically different way of going behaviorally, but also perspective in terms of what you're shooting for. And so a lot of what we see in the diet industry is an arrival point. Mm-hmm. From before and after pictures, as though that after picture stays like that at all forever. Especially in women's bodies that are constantly in a flux flow of shifting shape and size. But this idea that we're arriving somewhere, or even a diet is to lose the weight.
Mm-hmm.
And then what, and then, so then you hear about maintenance programs, and then what? Not actually dealing with the motivation behind it, the belief structures behind it, your relationship with yourself, with your form. And the learning piece really strikes me as that is what resilience is in this, is being able to try something,
Mm-hmm.
be awake to and be with how it's going,
Right.
continue to evolve it, that it isn't an endpoint.
Yeah.
Or an objective conclusion you're reaching for.
Absolutely. And what is your way of checking for whether something's working or not? Is it the scale? Is it a size blank jeans? Is it how you feel in yoga or climbing a mountain or wrestling with your kid or making love, or when even in your relationship with your food? Is it pleasurable? Is it easy enough? Is it variety enough? Like, I feel like a lot of diets almost say to us, let's eradicate some of these needs. Like, part of why when we eat, we want to belong. We come from a culture with certain foods. We want to eat with our friends and family and lovers, or we are eating alone and actually that's lonely. Or we want pleasure, textures. Who wants to eat a cold salad in January? Not very many people, but maybe a warm soup with the similar vegetables, But I feel like a lot of diets just, they don't allow for any nuances of attuning in to our own preferences and dovetailing that with science. So, there is the intuitive eating movement where we're supposed to be very tuned in. And I think that's part of what needs included, but it's not enough. It's partial. So if I'm mindfully eating 20 macadamia nuts, it's not that many, I'm actually eating 400 calories. If that's a snack and I'm, like that's just a little nibble. That's not a meal. I'm probably not going to lose weight that day, and I may very well gain weight, and then I may be frustrated because I haven't taken into account that a lot of how we feel full is from volume. Our stomachs hold around 3 cups of food. So, a handful of macadamia nuts isn't going to fill us up.
Right.
So we probably will eat more than a handful. Maybe macadamia nuts need to be chopped up fine and 3 of them on a salad as a little crunchy condiment to make that salad yummier. But it's not really something to eat in large amounts when you're trying to have a caloric deficit, an energy deficit. So to me, the intuitive and tuning in is really important. But if we ignore science, we'll be frustrated.
Right. I really like that you're bringing this point forward, because this is one of the things, not just in the realm of diet or body, but what we aim to do with the integral coaching method. With integral as the framework, we're trying to take as many perspectives in as possible. It's a holistic approach, and it is the answer to so many partial approaches. And so what you're naming here is, well, here's intuitive eating in all of its best efforts and might be better than some of the, Atkins, is partial and then can lead to frustration. So can you name some of the other partial approaches that you're seeing out there, and what needs to be pulled out for people?
Sure. Well, the most common one is where just do it. Just do it. Like take action. And sometimes that's informed by some research findings. So this week there was another research finding that eating in restaurants, which apparently at least half of all meals are either takeout or eaten in a restaurant in North America, it's a lot, is a big factor for weight gain and not losing weight and being overweight. So the idea is then, well, smarten up.
Stop doing that. Eat at home.
Like, eat at home. But, what needs are met by having takeout or eating in a restaurant? Like, why do you sometimes have takeout or go to a restaurant?
Well, I would answer that differently for each of those. So for takeout, it would totally be like, oh my gosh, I'm bagged. It's the end of the day. Really could have done that grocery shopping, didn't, don't have the whatever. So it's like, it's a time saver, shortcut. Even when you ask that, and then I think about, well, what would be needed in order to, there's a whole bunch of factors.
Right.
Going out, a lot of it is social. Getting out of the house, especially both my partner and I work from home or in this place a lot. So getting out, being in the world, meeting friends, connecting with friends.
Yeah.
So there's a whole social, environmental component.
Right. So for me, in working with someone around less takeout, less eating out, more at home, I would want to include and honor and find new ways of meeting those needs. So you have a need for ease.
Yeah.
How can you have, scrambled eggs are pretty easy, or, maybe you did a crock pot last week and you can microwave some of that stew or chili tonight. Some of that requires the capacity of organization and foresight too. But,
build ease and organization and foresight. Yes.
Belonging, getting out of the house. How can you and your partner get out of the house and meet people and maybe have a latte made with skim milk or soy milk or something, again, that fits into your nutritional plan.
We love the almond milk over here on the West Coast.
Yeah. and how can you have people over to eat? Have a potluck, or explore some healthy recipes and fun flavors, Mexican this or that, mix it up so it's not boring.
Can I just, there's something I'd seen an article go through Facebook one day about like how we need to have more shitty dinner dates. And it was around like families and how, well, if you go and have a dinner party, it's like, it becomes this exhausting thing and you've got to like put your laundry away and wash your floor and all of that. And so we started to do that where we go, hey, want to come over, bring your kids, bring some food, and my house is a mess. Come celebrate that. And it also, and the nourishment of that, to be able to relax and share a meal and be with friends and not have to. Yeah.
So you had this capacity. You had this capacity, though, I think, Chela, in that to be more flexible and less rigid and less judgmental around, I have to have a clean house, and then you tried something new and it sounds like it worked.
Yeah.
And that's part of in integral coaching. We're always sort of stretching into those edges, seeing how it goes, checking out our assumptions, having new beliefs that come from new behaviors. And so what I like is it's a fuller way. It's rather than just saying, don't go to restaurants, bracket, you lazy, such and such, bracket. It's just not, it's a more humane, it's a more capacity building, it's a fuller appreciation of how food and nourishment fits within a complex life. And maybe for some clients, I start working on the underlying issues of, oh, you're unhappily married, or oh, you're unhappy in your workplace, or oh, your mom has Alzheimer's and you're grieving before she's gone because she's already leaving you. What else is going on here?
Right.
And then there's the compassion that I think as coaches, we can try to light some of the person's self-compassion for what do they need, and how is food, if food is a friend for many of us, what does it take to build richer friendships with people, and how vulnerable is that?
Wow.
And how it's not a guaranteed thing, and how do we have to have, again, courage and perseverance and resilience, like to realize some of our efforts to connect or reconnect with people won't won't jibe, but some of them will.
You know, I really appreciate you bringing that in, because I think that as you're talking about all the nuance, say with the restaurant example, for instance, right? And I think that you're really beautifully laying out how we work as integral coaches. And so how we develop over time. And my sense is that for a lot of people, at least with these kind of more partial approaches and diet approaches, is that there is a real, I wish this would just go away. I want to achieve a certain body and have that be done and have it be handled. And I don't want to have to confront. So when you talk about this nuance in this, it's like, oh, that's a lot of work. Just give me a meal plan and I'll follow the meal plan and then I'll get the results and I'll go to the workouts, even though I hate them and it sucks and da 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 da. And what you're actually speaking to, which is a really important point, and it feels like a big thing that keeps coming out, is that change does take work and it takes really being awake.
I guess what I find for me in this topic, Chela, is that it's never just about food. It's never just about weight or the body. It's about it's about our values, our beliefs, our ways of looking at ourselves and the world, and what we want, what we yearn for. It's even about what's right and wrong, because it's wrong to insult oneself. It's wrong to be cruel to oneself on a moral level.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. Even so, it does not work. So to me, this topic can sometimes be one in which people get traction in self-care, self-authorship, alignment, curiosity, learning, organization, planning. And that's maybe part of why I like it so much, is because it's a rich, big, wide, deep topic, as are most topics when we coach people.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. When you talk about the way that it moves into all of these things, knowing that weight is not, well, like you said, it's about more than that. And that's also not the only place that you're focusing, right? So when you're talking about physician self-care, these other realms of helping people with self-care, I wonder if you could just say a little bit more about what we're facing in the world, because a lot of what we're seeing are competing needs or competing interests. I mean, you just named this in some of what we face with weight, but then with trying to take care of ourselves and then trying to do our work in the world as you're helping people with their work in the world and their self-care. And sometimes those can actually feel like they can't coexist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think, again, we have to be flexible. So I might aim to move my body 5 or 6 days a week. Sometimes it's -20 and I'm not going outside in that blizzard. Or my kid has day surgery that turns into a hospitalization overnight and a visit a day later to the emerge. So, that happened about 2 weeks ago. So my running or my spinning or my making a stir fry, I think we all live in a world with shifting parameters and commitments, but at what point, I think we work with this on a lot of clients, is what's our threshold for abandoning our own intentions, our own plans, versus what work wants, what children want, what partner wants, what parents want, Yeah. And so other times where these, my workouts are in my agenda as an appointment.
Nice.
A client cannot come into that time. It's an appointment. And so there's this funny thing where we have to be really fierce sometimes.
Yeah.
But we also need to be flexible. And that's what I think this both and is really rich, but it's also difficult.
Yeah.
Because we sort of think either or. Either I'll be perfect, or I'll just say screw it,
Yeah. Well, and that is what we see a lot, and especially when you've got that kind of judgmental overlay of right behavior, wrong behavior. I'm in or out. I loved how you described it of I'm in jail or I'm now out of jail because I know I need to go back in jail.
Right.
And what I'm hearing in that, part of what we're really talking about, and we've talked about, capacities a bunch. And when we're looking at how can I be dynamically in this topic, another topic in my life, they're underlying capacities that have us be more resilient. And what I'm hearing, I heard you name a few, but one of them is awareness, and intimacy with where our thresholds are, trust in ourselves to be able to show up so that we don't need some kind of rule laid over top that now if I break it, what do I trust? What do I rest in? What do I draw on? So that you've actually got something that you're drawing on. Flexibility, ferocity. So you've named all of these.
I also think that if what we intend to do is yummy and appealing, we will be so much more likely to do it.
Right.
So if I say I'm going to go down in my basement and run on a treadmill at 6 a.m, honestly, I'd rather have a red hot poker applied to a delicate area of my body.
You're just not going to do it. You know what? Well, so to speak to this, here's a structure that I've put in recently. So I'm not really into the gym. And I would have never, ever been on my radar to buy a stationary bike or a treadmill because same thing.
Yeah.
But I bought a treadmill desk.
Yeah, I know.
Because that pain of like sitting all the time was like, well, how did I end up? It was never my intention to have my job be a desk job.
Right.
And I don't relate to my job as a desk job. It is a vibrant, interactive, dynamic work. And I happen to do it in front of my computer. And so having this treadmill desk, it's made me more focused, more productive. I am walking several miles a day. It isn't some like, I've got to go do some big hard thing. It's not in my basement on a treadmill.
Right.
So it's like, that's one of the things that I've been playing with is how do I make things fun? How do I make things juicy? How do I merge things? So, go on a hike with friends, with our kids. Well, now we're getting a whole bunch of delicious intentions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this has just, I feel like we could, I'm like, when am I going to call Deb again so we can have more interviews on this topic? Because it's so rich and it could really, we could really go on and on. So for folks watching, guaranteed there are a ton of people who are going, I need that. And yes, these partial approaches are what I've historically done. And I want something new and I don't know how to do it. And even the thought of some of what you've said freaks me out, but I know I want it. So if you want that and you want Deb, check out her bio. You can find Deb's contact info there and get in touch. And before we wrap up, I'd like to ask a more personal question, if I may.
Sure.
You've already shared some personal stuff, but, as we're talking about, life is ongoing learning and ongoing development, and we are always at some kind of edge. So are you willing to share what is your current edge in your development that you're working with?
Well, on March 1st, I'm moving from Kingston to Ottawa, and I've lived in Kingston for 30 years. So that's a pretty big girl panties kind of move. Really. But within my coaching work, I'm moving more into some workshops, and I'd like to write a workbook to be able to have a wider impact for reaching out into the world where people will not have access to my services as a psychologist or a coach, and to share some of what I've learned, including through Integral Coach in Canada, to a wider audience and have a bigger impact. And that requires me to safeguard my time and energy for writing.
Nice. Which might not be the easiest thing to do.
No, because I love working with people one-on-one. It energizes me. It sources me. It's also what I've always done. So I have to draw on some of my colleagues and compatriots and friends to help me with that intention.
Awesome. Well, you've got me at your side.
I do.
And, you know, this really, really wise woman once told me that she actually puts her workouts in her schedule and there's an appointment that clients can't get in on. So it sounds like there's some kind of leveraging point there for the writing. So great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I know that's going to resonate for a lot of folks as well who are wanting to expand their reach and, yeah, that next edge of how do I do my work in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for sharing that. And thanks for being here. It's such a pleasure. I can totally feel how, like, I don't want to say this interview's a wrap. I'm going to go now. Let's just hang out and talk for a lot longer. So thanks for your wisdom. Thank you for all of your deep service. And
you're welcome.
I adore you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.